Toronto-based writer Katie Cunningham tweeted a joke that got a lot of attention and it got a lot of reply, and then she started trolling that reply to prove her point. Now the tweet here says, my favorite game is to act like I can't understand something very simple when a man is explaining it to me to see how dumb he thinks I am. Now, her Twitter name is Voldemort's Bicep, which is just freaking awesome. Now, somebody on Twitter named Greg Hughes responded to her saying, this, my dear, is called deception. She said, what do you mean? Mic drop. And then he continued on saying, it's a form of dishonesty that you are using for self-gain or amusement. It's actually quite sophisticated stuff. Well done. Just, sorry, I don't get it. So then she shared that entire conversation. People are enjoying her trolling him, basically sort of bolstering her point here. And now she, in an interview with BuzzFeed News, responded saying that unfortunately, because it's a tweet, there isn't a lot of room to explain that the whole joke was a commentary on how often men talk down to her in professional and academic settings or just in general. She then said that she engaged in a direct message conversation with this guy, and they kind of hashed it out, and he was saying that he was part of it, of the joke, I think after the fact. And so
they hashtagged it out.
They hashtagged it out. But I want to mention, so I started following her on Twitter after this to kind of see what she was up to and what other things that she did, and she followed me back. And so I was like, hey, do you have a comment for this story? Like, would love to get, you know, anything that you want to add for this commentary. She, one line, girls rule, boys drool. I was like, you're awesome. You're the coolest person ever. But it's very funny. It's a funny story. Are we going to disagree? Do you not think boys drool?
Yeah, I'm waiting on this. I'm going to pull up.
Boys don't drool?
So, yeah, I'm going to disagree a little bit. So, look, I don't know if he was being sarcastic or not. My initial instinct was, no, you weren't being sarcastic.
Right.
Like, afterwards, you were like, yeah, oh, yeah, no, I'm just playing along.
Yeah.
But, you know, I read this article in a super weird way. It didn't download the tweets the first time I read it. When I heard he was saying, oh, it's just being sarcastic, I didn't know what they were alluding to, and I was like, I don't believe it at all, right? But after having read all the tweets, I was like, actually, there's some chance he was being sarcastic, because it's so obvious. She's like, oh, I'll ask you to clarify, and he's like, okay, now I will clarify for you, right? So some chance of it, but that's not the important part. The important part is, like, is she right that this is what men do? And I'm sure that happens. Of course it happens.
I can attest to that.
Right.
100%.
Yes.
I'll be real.
But on the other hand, yeah, a lot of stuff happens on the internet, and there's a lot of dumbasses on the internet, in both men and women. And so when somebody's like, what, on the internet, I usually tend to believe them, that they're actually going, what, right? You see what I'm saying? There's so much both vitriol and absurdity online, so when someone has to explain something to somebody, it's not necessarily a male-female thing. It's, to me, the bigger assumption is we're online and this guy or girl could be a knucklehead.
But that's not, I don't think that's the commentary, right? So she's talking about how, and she's saying the entire point of her initial tweet here is that people talk down to her, right? And so when this guy was like being like, excuse me, sweetheart, that's called deception, she wanted to make her point again and double down on it, but saying what? And see if he would explain to her what deception meant as a writer. Do you know what I mean? So I think...
Yeah, I do, but at the same time, I'm saying...
Obviously,
oftentimes people don't give the benefit of the doubt to someone else online that they're being clever, right? That they feel like, no, I got to explain this to you because apparently you're not getting it, right? So it's more, I felt like it was more an internet thing and a commenters back and forth than it was a male-female thing.
100%. I think there are dumb people on Twitter that are male and that are female. 100%. We're on the same page with that. But I do think there is a huge problem with the way that sometimes men talk to women and they talk down to them and they don't assume that they are as intelligent as them or could be as intelligent as them and understand the things that they're talking about. And so I think she was trying to shine light on that. And I think the way that people responded to her, it just turned into a way to further exemplify that.
Yeah, I think I'll mediate in between. It's like, I do understand that. This is the thing about these unique stories, is you can only pull from what you've experienced yourself, right? You said there that there's been examples where you have had people talk down to you and feel like they need to over-explain something. I've had examples where I've tried to explain something in the realm of sports. My examples came, And then I had to continue to explain it to get my point across. But it doesn't mean that it was a specific gender thing. It just comes down to how you take your own instance and relate it to the scenario. I do agree with what Cenk's saying. I think that there is that hint of sarcasm, whether or not he was being sarcastic. He's not, like, even if he wasn't, it's just a male thing. Absolutely, I meant to do that. I was playing along all along. That's just a way that we deal with not being in the wrong. But would I be foolish to say that women are not talked down to, even in an academic environment and something like that? And yes, I would be foolish if I thought that didn't happen. Do I like the way of trying to exploit it to get, in a way that's like the way she posed that question as to, like, I like to play dumb and have more men explain it to? Well, I don't know if that's going to get the point across that men should not be doing that in the first place. I feel like that just allows men to kind of, like, guys will think, oh, this is my job now, I'm going to explain it further.
I think she's the one being sarcastic in this situation.
Oh, she's clearly being
sarcastic.
Oh, no doubt, but I think that she has done it.
She's not, like, constantly playing dumb to sort of, like, pander to these guys who are talking down to her, but sometimes she'll, like, kind of, like, fuck with them and be sarcastic. Like, I do that all the time. Like, if a guy starts talking down to me, I'll just be like, what are you talking about? Because I'm just like, it's so offensive that you're assuming that I don't know these, like, basic facts. Like, I do the online dating or here and there, and I'll get messages from guys who will say, like, the most ridiculous things. I'm like, oh, some guy said to me, I'm from Sudan, which is a country in Africa. I'm like, yeah, thanks, bro.
But Hannah, you're American. And people will assume that about Americans. Your geography is catastrophic in America.
Yeah.
I have people ask me what part of Scotland England's in. And it's like, you speak good English for a guy from Scotland. Yeah, I speak English. I may speak a little fast, but it's what happens. So I do get both sides of it. But again, I think it's foolish to generalize this. It's about the specifics of the example. If I was to come up to you in the job and be like, Hannah, I need you to monetize this YouTube video or something like that, you'd be like, and then I would explain how you could monetize it, then I'd be like, you had every right to do so, and be like, okay, I know this field. And if you're to generalize about any discussion that a woman who's doing a very similar job to you, that's wrong. But again, I don't know if those situations.
But that's different from you. I mean, using, like, workplace vernacular that is specific to a certain job and expertise is completely different than, like, basic facts and the way that you talk to people and the way that you explain certain things. And look, I like to assume that people know what I'm talking about. And if you have a question, be like, oh wait, can you explain that better? There's nothing embarrassing or wrong with doing that. But assuming that they don't know, any sort of basic facts, that's offensive.
So, okay, I'll say this last thing. That's why I love the Young Turks, because we get to see each other things from each other's perspectives, right? So I don't feel that men do that to women a lot, but that's partly because I'm not a woman, so I haven't experienced it as much. So when Hannah says that, I go, oh, okay, that's interesting. So that's something to look out for, because I haven't had that experience that you've had. Now, at the same time, I'm not saying that that's the only thing that happened here, because I've seen both sides of it, right? Some people, again, having nothing to do with male or female, you got to explain things 18 times to, like Trump supporters, right? Jordan out there, our reporter, is, give me one policy you like. I just like Trump. I just like him. Okay, no, but I'm asking you for a policy. I know, right? But Trump, right? You're like, oh, Jesus Christ, I got to explain this again. No, a policy. Yes, I know you like Trump. Why? Why do you like Trump? Give me a policy. So you do have to do that from time to time.
Of course.
Not because you want to be condescending. And then the flip side to that is I have also felt what you're talking about in a completely different context. It's with the mainstream, whether they're Democrats or establishment or media. They're like, oh, you liberals, you don't understand. Sometimes when legislating, you have to do something called compromise. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. The question is, how do you get to that compromise? So when they treat you like children, like you can't understand simple concepts, right? No, but we think we can get a better compromise if we hold our position for longer. Like, what's ironic about the people doing the condescension is 9 out of 10 times they don't understand things very well, right?